This is Christine again from Nature's Simple Fix, and as promised, today we're going to go ahead and make that vegan bacon. So what you will need is coconut chips. I use the organic ones, and they're from Fresh Thyme, so they're only about $3 a bag. And you're going to want a 7-ounce bag, which is approximately 3 cups. You will also need organic apple cider vinegar. And we will be using, sorry, I'm going to have to actually check my recipe. This is one of those rare runs where I actually measure everything. 2 teaspoons. I use organic, again, pure maple syrup. And you will need 1.5 to 2 tablespoons. I usually use 2. And again, I'm not sure if I said this, but this is the apple cider vinegar with mother. I just prefer that. It's a little healthier. It's something you can use outside of just cooking. And of course, liquid smoke. And you're going to use about 2.5 to 3 tablespoons for that as well. And again, organic again, I use soy sauce, and I use 3 tablespoons, which I know is a lot. But again, you're making something that you're trying to mimic something that's already salty, so naturally, definitely soy sauce is going to make it taste salty. So if you're trying to reduce your salt, you can use the low sodium soy sauce, but it will change the flavor a little bit. So, as I said, this one's very simple. That's all that's in it. This is only going to take me about 5 or 10 minutes to show you this. You're going to go ahead and want to preheat your oven to 325 to 350. Right now I have it at 325 because what I do is if it starts coming out and it looks like it's not browning enough, then I'll go ahead and I'll take the temperature up a little bit. It's a lot easier to take the temperature up than to take it down. So I also put it on the low end of my oven, on the low rack, because it tends to cook a little better that way. Now this will make approximately enough for 2 trays. I put the trays in separate, again, because it's going to really mess up how it cooks if you try to put 2 in at once. So you're just going to pour that in your large bowl, your coconut chips. And again, you want to stay away from shredded. That's not going to seem like bacon bits, is it? No. So you want to use something that is nice and large, that has the big, large pieces. Now, what it's going to look like when it gets done, I showed you a picture on there. You're just going to, if you can sort of see this a little bit, what it looks like, and I just put it in an airtight container when I get done with it. You'll also notice I have some stuff over here. This is my preparation for me making my own, oh, don't you love that when you just draw a blank on a word for my own croutons? This is a little bit of COVID stuff, guys. I tend to forget words a lot and get things jumbled up. It's been going on ever since I had that wonderful virus. So I hope nobody else is going through it. Anyway, and also my pasta over here along with my cashews, because I'm going to attempt for my first time to make my own cheese sauce for some mac and cheese. So if that comes out well, we'll be doing a video for that too. Anyway, you go ahead and put your organic coconut chips in that bowl. Make sure it's large enough to mix it around. And I always start with the soy sauce again. You can start with anything you want. Go ahead and pour in those 3 tablespoons. You want to make sure you really mix it up a little bit. Don't pour it all in one spot. Now again, if you want to use a little bit less and use 2 tablespoons, you can do that, but again, it is going to change the flavor a little bit. So I'm just going to look at my recipe real quick to make sure I don't overdo this. Like I said, I usually just pour, not with this one. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use my 3 tablespoons of this one instead of 2.5. Now one thing I do tend to do a lot though, if I was using the 2.5, I would fill it up halfway on this, because I could still generally eyeball stuff when it comes to that. And I still have a little bit in here, so I won't need my backup one over here yet. Going ahead and putting in my maple syrup. Now again, you want to use pure maple syrup, not syrup that you put on pancakes. Now if I have my top choice, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons instead of 1.5 this time. Sometimes I use 1.5, it just depends on what I'm in the mood for, how much flavoring I want. personal favorite would be to get it straight from a farm. That's not an option right now. So you go with what you have. Fresh Thyme brand is pretty inexpensive. I think it was $5 or $6. And you're going to add your apple cider vinegar. We're going to use 2 teaspoons. And no big surprise here, we're going to go ahead and start mixing that up. Now this will take a couple minutes though to thoroughly mix it, because you're going to notice if you just leave it like this, it doesn't look like it's absorbing at all. It takes a few minutes for that to really sink in. You just have to keep stirring it. Now on your trays, I forgot to mention this, you want to make sure you put parchment paper down. We're not going to use foil this time, we're just leaving plain. Parchment paper is the easiest way to work with these. And again, you'll hear my oven just officially heated up. Now, I'm going to just talk about this while I'm mixing this, because honestly, this is the last step, and then you just put it in the oven. It is so easy to make. But after you thoroughly mix this up, and you put it on your tray, and you want to try to make sure it's not overlapping as much as possible. You're still going to have some clumps. That's just a given. That's okay. But you are going to have to stir this, and I take it out 3 times, stir it, and put it back in. Now, it took a lot of trial and error to get this perfect, so I'm helping you out so you don't have to go through the same problem I did when I first made these, which is that I went by somebody else's recipe, and I'm just going to say it didn't work at all. It burnt so badly. So I found out the hard way. One thing they did say that was definitely accurate, you have to watch it. Every oven cooks a little differently. With mine, what I do is I put them in for 8.5 minutes, pull it out, stir it, put it back in again for 5.5 minutes, pull it out, stir it, and then put it back in for 2.5 minutes. Pull it out, set it on the tray, leave it for about 30 seconds, and then I pull it off. Now, another thing you're going to find out, when you pull it out for that last time, if you do it all 3 times in stages like I did, you're going to think, oh gosh, this doesn't look quite like it's done yet. It will continue to crisp up a little bit after you pull it out of the oven. So it's a real fine line of getting that perfect flavoring. Now, if you're somebody who likes soft bacon, then pull it out a little sooner. I think it tastes better when it's a little crispier, especially considering the fact this isn't really real bacon. But I'll tell you what, it tastes a lot like bacon. And you can use it on just about anything. And obviously it's not going to taste the same as having a big piece of bacon on your plate, but I'm just going to say this too, and just say it right out. You shouldn't be eating that anyway. It's horrible for you. So, you learn to leave some things behind when you go vegan, and you know what? I don't regret it at all. I'm glad that I did. And now there's none of that stuff that I even miss. So, you can put this on a bagel with a piece of vegan cheese and some spinach, and you have yourself almost a little bacon cheese sandwich. You can put it on an English muffin, with one of the little egg patties, the fake egg patties. Just Egg makes an egg patty that is really good, and get your little bacon, egg, and cheese fix. Sprinkle it on a baked potato with some vegan sour cream. Follow Your Heart makes an amazing vegan sour cream. I'm still working on making my own. I haven't figured that out yet without tofu, because as much as I do like tofu, that's just something I don't want to do is make tofu sour cream. You can sprinkle it on top of, I make my own waffles, and instead of chicken you have your bacon waffle. And somewhere down the road I'll just pass you on my apple pie waffle. I still use a mix, so it's just the apple stuff that's actually homemade. And I'm sure I could make my own waffles, it's just the mix only has a few ingredients in it. So that's something you really have to watch for, even when it comes down to me making my own croutons again. You want to make sure you watch for a bread that has very few ingredients when you're buying it. And also, of course, definitely watching to make sure it doesn't have milk in it. Now you'll notice I'm still stirring, and we're on, what, another 3-4 minutes? That's about how long it takes to keep stirring it. Now there'll still be some that sits in the bottom. What I do after I put it on my trays is just sprinkle it over. It'll absorb while you're cooking. But you'll notice the color is now starting to change a little bit. Look a little closer to bacon. You can sprinkle this on salads, which is my heading picture, you know, just to add for a little bit of bacon on one of your salads. I don't always do that with salads, but another thing it's nice to do is when you make the vegan eggs, you can sprinkle it on top to get a little bit of egg. Some people like to put them on top. This is very common to see this in vegan restaurants. Actually, 2 things. They will make the avocado BLT. I will show you how to make that also. It is so simple, you'll think, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I've been paying money to have somebody else do this. And also, loaded nachos. I don't eat those very often, but that's another thing you can put it on. Now, you'll notice that there's still quite a bit here rolling around in the bottom. So, officially, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just let it sit here for a second. And just soak down in there. You're going to spread it onto your pan again. And again, I have 2 pans. We're just going to start with this one. Now, what I do with that little extra is I usually leave it in here for my little second batch. And it'll soak right in. And I promised you this one was really simple. And it is amazing how good it tastes. And all this time when I used to go out and order the avocado BLTs, I had no idea it was this simple to make it. And the avocado spread is even easier. I could probably walk you through it just telling you. And again, it's super healthy for you because that's a good fat in avocados. Same thing with coconut. Now, just to speed this up a little bit, I would normally spread this a little thinner, but I think you get the idea. You just spread it out like that. We're going to go ahead and put it in the oven. Now again, I'm going to stress between 325 and 350, depending on your oven, whether it cooks a little faster than mine. Go ahead and put it on the bottom tray if you have 2 different levels, and cook it in there for that 8.5 minutes, or excuse me, bake it for that 8.5 minutes first. Pull it out, get your spatula, mix it around again, put it back in there for another 5.5 minutes, bring it out, stir it around again, and put it back in. Now those last 2.5, that's just kind of give or take. You got to keep checking it. Sometimes it might just take another minute. But when you start seeing it look a little brown, that's when you're going to want to make sure you pull it out. I'm not really sure how this is going to show up when I try to put this on camera, but when you start to see it browning a little bit like this, that's when you're going to want to pull it out. Now, I usually get mine a little crispier than that. This is the last of this last batch I made, and those didn't cook up as crispy as I would have liked them to. So the picture I put on heading over this is the color nice and close, what it usually looks like. And it will brown up, like I said, a little bit more when it sits on the pan, so it depends on how long you let it sit. But that's all there is to it. Thanks for joining me, and I will be coming on next for another fitness video. We're going to do one by my mom's request for the quads and the glutes. Then we will be using some equipment for that this time. We'll be using the bands that go around the legs and the bands with handles, maybe some hand weights. So if you don't have those, Amazon sells them really, 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 really cheap. Or you can use just some other equipment, which we'll go over in the video. Thanks everyone for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the bacon.